The morning sun stretched across the parking lot of Save More Grocery on Maple Street, painting long shadows between the rows of cars. Sarah Chen stood near the entrance, watching people come and go with their carts and canvas bags. She had been coming to this store for 3 years now, ever since she moved to the neighborhood, but today felt different somehow. Today, she had decided to do something she had never done before. Her friend Marcus Williams stood beside her, holding his phone and occasionally glancing at the growing list they had made together the night before. They had saved up money for 2 months, setting aside $20 here, $30 there, until they had enough to make a real difference. Not for themselves, but for others. "You ready?" Marcus asked, his voice gentle in the cool morning air. Sarah nodded, though her hands felt shaky. "I think so. It seemed like such a good idea last night, but now I'm wondering if people will even accept help from strangers." They had talked about this for weeks. Both of them had grown up in families that struggled sometimes. Sarah remembered her mother counting coins at the checkout line, quietly asking the cashier to remove items when there wasn't enough money. Marcus remembered the month his father lost his job, and how they ate rice and beans for dinner every single night. Those memories never really left you. They stayed tucked in your heart, tender and raw, reminding you that kindness matters. The automatic doors slid open as an elderly woman approached, pushing an empty cart with careful, deliberate steps. She wore a faded blue jacket that had seen many winters, and her eyes had that distant look of someone calculating numbers in their head before even entering the store. Sarah took a breath and walked forward. "Excuse me, ma'am." The woman stopped and turned, her expression cautious but polite. "My friend and I, we wanted to do something kind today," Sarah said, speaking slowly and clearly. "We'd like to buy your groceries for you. Whatever you need." The woman blinked, then blinked again. For a moment, Sarah worried she had made a mistake, that this was too forward, too strange. But then the woman's eyes filled with tears, and she brought one trembling hand to her mouth. "You want to buy my groceries?" she whispered. "Yes, ma'am," Marcus said, stepping closer. "Whatever you need. Please, let us do this." Her name was Dorothy, and she was 78 years old. She lived alone in a small apartment 2 blocks away. Her pension didn't stretch as far as it used to, and lately she had been choosing between her medications and proper meals. As they walked through the store together, Dorothy carefully selected fresh vegetables, a small chicken, some bread, and tea. She kept looking back at Sarah and Marcus as if they might disappear if she looked away too long. At the checkout, the total came to $63.42. Sarah handed over the money without hesitation, and when Dorothy hugged her goodbye, Sarah felt something crack open in her chest, something warm and aching and good. They found their second person near the dairy section. A young father named James stood with his daughter perched in the shopping cart seat. The little girl, maybe 4 years old, was pointing at colorful yogurt containers while James quietly explained they could only get the plain kind today. His face carried the tight expression of someone doing difficult math, trying to make limited resources cover unlimited needs. Sarah approached with more confidence this time. When she made the offer, James actually laughed, not because it was funny, but because he couldn't quite believe it was real. "Are you serious?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. "Completely serious," Marcus assured him. James bought groceries for the week. Pasta, sauce, chicken, milk, fresh fruit for his daughter, and yes, the colorful yogurt she had wanted. At checkout, he kept saying thank you, over and over, until the words seemed to lose their shape and become just pure gratitude, spilling out in waves. Throughout the morning, Sarah and Marcus moved through the store like quiet angels, looking for people who seemed to carry weight on their shoulders. They found Maria, a college student who had been staring at ramen noodles because that was all her budget allowed. They found Robert, a veteran with kind eyes who was buying only the bare essentials. They found Keisha, a single mother with 3 children who actually cried right there in the cereal aisle when they offered to help. Each person had a story. Each person had been working hard, doing their best, trying to make ends meet in a world that sometimes felt too expensive, too difficult, too unforgiving. And each person's face transformed when they realized that someone saw them, someone cared, someone wanted to help without asking for anything in return. By afternoon, they had helped 8 people. Sarah's feet ached from standing, but her heart felt fuller than it had in months. She and Marcus took a break on a bench outside the store, drinking water and watching the parking lot. "How much do we have left?" Sarah asked. Marcus checked his phone calculator. Enough for 2 more, maybe. Depends on how much they need. They waited, watching. The sun had moved higher now, warming the air, making everything feel softer somehow. Sarah thought about how strange it was that money could mean so little to some people and so much to others. The amounts they were spending today, they were significant but not enormous. Yet for the people they helped, these groceries meant security, meant full bellies, meant one less thing to worry about in lives already full of worry. An old pickup truck pulled into a space near them, engine rattling before it cut off. A man climbed out, probably in his 50s, with weathered hands and paint stains on his jeans. Behind him, the truck bed held construction tools and worn equipment. He moved slowly, like someone whose body hurt from years of hard labor. Sarah stood up. By now, she had learned to recognize the signs. The way he paused before going in, steeling himself. The way his hand went to his wallet, checking it was there, as if confirming an unpleasant truth. "Sir," she called out, "could we talk to you for a moment?" His name was Thomas. He did construction work, but jobs had been slow lately. He lived with his wife, who was recovering from surgery, and their teenage son. He had come to buy just enough to get through a few more days until his next paycheck came through. When Sarah explained what they wanted to do, Thomas actually stepped back, shaking his head. "No, no," he said. "There are people who need it more than me. I'm managing." But Marcus saw through that. He had heard his own father say those exact words before, wearing that same expression of tired pride. "Managing doesn't mean you couldn't use some help," Marcus said gently. "Please, let us do this." Thomas's face worked through several emotions, resistance and gratitude fighting each other. Finally, he nodded, just once, quick and sharp, as if he had to do it fast before he changed his mind. They walked through the store together. Thomas picked practical things, good food that would last. He mentioned his wife loved tomatoes, so he added those. He grabbed his son's favorite cereal, something he hadn't bought in weeks. At checkout, when Sarah paid, Thomas stood very still, his jaw tight, his eyes bright. "I don't know how to thank you," he said, his voice rough. "You don't have to," Sarah told him. "Just maybe help someone else someday, when you can." They had enough for one more person. One more opportunity to make a difference. Sarah and Marcus waited near the entrance again, and this time they didn't have to wait long. A woman came in with 2 young boys, both under 10 years old. She was dressed in a work uniform from the fast food restaurant down the street. She looked exhausted in that deep way that comes from working multiple shifts and still not having quite enough. The boys were well behaved but hungry looking, watching everything with wide eyes. Sarah approached her last, having learned throughout the day the right words to use, the right tone of voice. The woman's name was Patricia, and when Sarah made the offer, Patricia just stood there for a long moment, completely frozen. "Why?" she finally asked. Not suspicious, just genuinely confused. "Why would you do this?" Sarah thought about Dorothy, about James and his daughter, about Maria and Robert and Keisha and Thomas. She thought about all the people struggling silently, working hard, trying their best. She thought about her own mother, counting coins. "Because everyone deserves help sometimes," Sarah said simply. "Because we can. Because you matter." Patricia covered her face with both hands and cried. Her boys pressed against her sides, confused and concerned, until she explained through tears that these nice people were going to buy their groceries. Then the boys looked at Sarah and Marcus like they were superheroes, which made Sarah want to cry too. They finished shopping together. Patricia bought a week's worth of real food, nutritious meals, treats for her children. She bought things she had been putting off. At checkout, the total was $78, which was more than they had planned for their last person, but Sarah and Marcus pulled what they had left and made it work. Walking to their car afterward, Sarah felt different. Lighter somehow, despite being tired. The day had been long, and they had spent all the money they had saved, but something had shifted inside her. She had seen the faces of 10 strangers transform. She had witnessed the exact moment when burden became relief, when worry became hope. "Same time next month?" Marcus asked, climbing into the driver's seat. Sarah smiled, settling into the passenger side. Same time next month. They would save up again. They would come back. They would keep doing this, not because they were wealthy or special, but because they had learned something important today. Kindness didn't require grand gestures or enormous resources. It just required seeing people, really seeing them, and choosing to help when you could. The sun was beginning to lower as they drove away from Save More Grocery, but the day felt brighter somehow. Behind them, 10 families had groceries they needed. 10 people had been reminded that strangers could be kind, that the world held more goodness than it sometimes seemed. And that, Sarah thought, was worth everything.